thank you so much for coming out to Bible study on this kind of stormy. Don't know how the storm is coming, but I think we're just in that season. We just gotta play it out. But thank you for coming out for Bible study. Just try to announce at the end, just remind me, potatoes. You want free white potatoes? They're out there. I guess they're not black potatoes. So, but anyway, white potatoes, they're out there. I'm sorry about that. Irish potatoes.
Then you know they're white potatoes.
Yeah, Irish potatoes are out there. And get as many potatoes as you would like. Please. Jumping back in, we've been dealing with the life of King David. I've been just, Lord's been ministering to me so many correlations as I've been going through the life, and we've been going line upon line, precept upon precept. I really want you just to continue to add to your knowledge as we think about he's the precursor to the Messiah. They talk about David, Jesus in the line, came the line of David, that Messiah, and we see a lot of correlations. No matter what we deal with David, he had issues, but he was still called a man after God's own heart. And so we're going to examine that. We're getting to the end of his life. A lot of decisions will be made. Theologians struggle with the chronological steps of David's life at the end. So some of the things we're trying to paste together the best way we know how. Today we're going to jump back into 2 Samuel 22. This is a song of David. One of the blessings that David gives us, leaves us under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, is songs. It was in a male chorus anniversary yesterday. Some came, and songs are just so important. And I think we've cut ourselves short when it comes to singing. We've sold ourselves to the marketplace. People making songs, so we just repeat those songs, but the songs are not really ours. They don't come from our heart. And it has. We've got poets here at Ebenezer, and I've requested songs that they have, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to produce your own songs. But I think that's good when you toil and you labor for those songs, it means. That's why, our ancestors who were in slavery, they did those, nobody knows the troubles I see.
Yes.
I mean, you can sing that song, but you really, you got to go through some troubles in order to sing it. So those songs were soulful. They came out of experience. And this song is saying it's soulful. It comes out of the experience of David. And we need to have soulful songs that come out of our experience. Again, just the history. Go ahead, Cindy.
I met a minister last week, and he said that when he goes to a church to preach, he's a retired pastor. He said, I can tell what kind of church it is just by the songs that the choir sings. He said, in first, second, third songs, whatever it is, he said, I can tell what kind of church it is. I said, wow.
I agree, and I think one of the blessings we have here at Ebenezer, and I hope we keep that richness, we have different types of songs choirs. A lot of churches have gone to one choir, or one praise team. And the problem with that, you get consistency, but I think that difference really helps us. And David, we see that he sings all types of songs out of his experience. They're not just chants. These are literally line upon line. I'm putting to melody what God has done in my life and what I want him to do in my life. These songs are prayers. We sing these songs, but we also can pray these songs. We've already gone through the first section of this 2 Samuel where he's singing. With the words of his song, David praises the Lord for deliverance from his enemies and for the innumerable blessings which have been showered upon him. So we're just going to make some correlations by David to our lives. Let's go ahead and jump into this. 2 Samuel 22, 31 through 33. Someone read, please.
As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven. He is a shield to all who trust in him. For who is God except the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? God is my strength and power, and makes my way, and he makes my way perfect.
We can understand why David is a man after God's own heart. Even in his downfalls, comparatively in his righteousness and his prayers, I mean, wow, what a man. And I think in all of our lives, this is before Christ. He's writing these things before the Messiah. He's looking to the promise. There's just no excuse for us in our living. We have the Holy Spirit dwelling on the inside of us. The kings would have the Holy Spirit sit down on them from time to time. Wouldn't dwell in them because the Messiah hadn't come. So this whole process we see underlined, as for God, his way is what?
Perfect.
Amen.
And in this day and time, I've just had to come to that point. We don't understand God. We understand just a little bit of God, what he reveals to us. And what we don't understand, you just got to come to the point that God knows best.
Amen.
Because we can use our logic over and over again, and we run into a roadblock. So God knows best. His way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven.
Amen.
It is. It's proven over and over again. That's why we still have these 66 books over all these years. The devil, I know he would like to get rid of this. Right? I know he would just like to just burn it all Babels in the world. But this word is stayed here because it is proven. He's a shield to all those who trust in him. Now we have to understand that David using shield, he's thinking about the soldier experience. But we understand that shield does not mean that we won't get physically attacked, that we won't get physically hurt. He's talking about his soul. He's talking about who he is. Look at that next part. It says, God is my strength and power. Strength, why is that? Why are those interesting words? Why did he use strength and power?
Because it takes power to have strength, and it takes strength to have power.
They go in conjunction. Strength, he gives me strength, but he's also the power source. All right, strength. It's the same thing with your cars. You have a battery, but you need the generator to charge the battery, and then you need gas to keep everything going. And so all of these things again, he's the strength and power. And then that last part, he makes my ways work. When we do what he wants us to do, he makes our way perfect because it's his will and not about our will. And I've been praying that's really a revelation for the last 4 years. God's will, not my will. Because our wills are so tainted. Right? Just the things that we want. We really are so selfish and have so many desires that we can't understand. I was talking to Bianca today, and we've been organizing since like our whole life, since we've been together, trying to get things. I said, what if God has given us exactly the space that we need? And it's us that have messed up that space. Right? What if instead of adding on another closet, adding on another wing or whatever, God's already given us the exact space that we need for our peace, but yet we keep bringing junk in. We gotta believe that his way is perfect. Perfect. Look at this next part. Someone read 34 through 37.
He makes my feet like the feet of deer and sets me on my high places. He teaches my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation. Your gentleness has made me great. You enlarged my path under me so my feet did not slip.
Beautiful. He attributes everything he has to God. You're my strength. You teach me how to shoot a bow. You help me with Goliath. That's basically what he said. Everything in my life, you help me to do. And I think a lot of times we don't attribute enough to the Lord, our successes, or we're fake about it. You know, the celebrities get up, I want to give honor to God, and they done curse through the song. You just kind of going through, you're trying to make your grandma happy. That's what it is. You don't have a fear of God. And so this whole process, and that last one I underlined, you enlarge my path under me, so my feet did not slip. What does that mean? I think that's a beautiful scripture.
I think that part means to not get him straight, go straight. I mean, he's giving him a way for him to go. Not to steer off to the right or left of that road, but stay right in the middle of it.
All right, Angie?
I see it as grace. As the Bible says, it's straight and narrow. You meet a passerby every now and then, and so it's easy to slip off that road there. But he enlarges that path by giving us grace and mercy, so that we can stay on the right path and not just kick us on the other side.
It is. It's saying we are walking through a narrow path that we can slip off of, But I heard the story today. When people go across the stream, sometimes they get on rocks, and sometimes those rocks can be very narrow. So imagine God saying, "I still want you to get across the stream, but when you step on every rock, I'm going to widen it for you." That's what this is saying. It's a narrow path. It's your will. I can't do it on my own. But every step I take, if you just make it wider so I don't fall off of it, and that's the picture of grace that David is walking in.
And you got to admit though, Pastor, that God is great by giving him widen that road. Cause you know, homeboy stayed on that narrow road a lot of times and he failed on it. Then he flipped off of it.
You're right.
You know,
Now he can't.
I know, there was a big stream down over our house, and the board was about this wide. And you had to keep your eyes on it so you make sure you step, you fall right in the water. Get across that. So listen, in the Christian life, you have to be very careful. And it was red, the road is narrow, tight and narrow.
Amen.
And it's so easy sometimes to get off the path if you ain't careful.
Amen. And God, he's saying your will, your way. And we see a lot of God's grace with his issues with Bathsheba. David, in all actuality, should have been dead because of that.
Yeah.
But God showed grace. He showed a lot of grace. And I think he learned from that. We see, remember his issues with Abigail. And, he was getting ready to kill his husband. Abigail was able to come and talk to him. And a lot of grace. I think these were flashbacks of the grace that God gave him. Look at this next part. A big portion of scripture, but I want to put them together. 38 through 43. Someone read.
I have pursued my enemies and destroyed them, neither did I turn back again till they were destroyed. And I have destroyed them and wounded them, so that they could not rise. They have fallen under my feet. For you have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued under me those who rose against me. You have also given me the necks of my enemies, so that I destroyed those who hated me. They looked, but there was none to save, even the Lord, but he did not answer them. Even to the Lord, but he did not answer them. Then I beat them as fine as the dust of the earth. I tried them like dirt in the streets, and I spread them out.
Even David, in his battle sense, he understood God did have enemies. There were those that did not serve Elohim, the Yahweh. And God sanctioned sections to be wiped out. I know a lot of people don't understand that, but that's why we have military. That's why I served in the military, because there's a time for war and there's a time for peace. And if we don't believe that, then we have to be, people who don't go into the military. We have to be like Muhammad Ali, who wouldn't go into the military. And people have that place, but I do believe there's a time. Thank God for the police. Amen. Amen. I thank God the police have guns. I really do. I think that is an important part of our society, because there are always those who are going to go against the grain. And God has ordained, we found that within the book, he's ordained authority. He's ordained people to be his policemen to the evil that's here. And it's getting darker. That's the sad thing. It's getting darker. And David brings out in that 41st verse, you've also given me the necks of my enemies, so that I destroyed those who hated me. They looked, but there was none to save, even to the Lord, but he did not answer them. The reality, that's the picture of hell also. There comes a point, God gives so much grace, but judgment is going to come. Judgment is going to come, and there's a time that there's no more repentance. And we've got to let people know, they think they can just live, but there is a time that grace cuts off, and judgment comes with full fury. And David understands also. Look at 2 Samuel 22, 44 through 46.
You have also delivered me from the striving of my people. You have kept me as the head of the nations. The people I have not known shall serve me. The foreigners submit to me. As soon as they hear, they obey me. The foreigners fade away and come fighting from their hideouts.
His whole authority base comes from the authority of God. Just wanted to focus on that 44th verse. What does that mean? You have also delivered me from the strivings of my people. You have kept me as the head of the nations. What does that mean?
I think it means, David had enemies, but they wasn't all from other nations. They were within Israel's tribe
Amen.
that was against them too.
Okay,
And I think this is some of that he's talking about.
you're right, Phil.
Kind of sad, but it looks like he's saying that the rest of my people have to work really hard, and you've lifted me kind of above that, so instead of being one of them, kind of, I'm the head of them, where I don't have to work as hard.
The grace, I think he recognizes, all of us, we just need to realize, and I think the Azulabus, their testimony will always just stick in my heart and mind. Their picture of America is totally different than ours. Right? I'm serious. I when I was at that first table, I was like, wow. Because I don't know if Bianca would have got over here. I just be honest. I don't know. It's a different vibe. I'm like, honey, it's been nice, you know. I'll come visit you.
Papers will follow.
But really, it's just, it is not Bianca's fault, it's just my personality. I'm like, woo, you know, pros and cons, it's working. But their thought pattern of America is so different because they had to work so hard to get here. They had to sacrifice so much to get here. And the same respect here, David understands, you know what? I was elevated because God allowed me to kill Goliath.
Yep.
That's true.
I was a little shepherd boy on the side of the hill, and Samuel shows up in my house and anoints me. That wasn't me. That was God. I wasn't even in the line to be king, but God put me. So that's His grace, and so we can never take for granted. We are just living in here in America. We got so much more. I mean, I tell you, I don't pick on our people on the corners are fat. They're holding a sign, and they just as plump as they can be. Right? And if they're real skinny, you know crack just got them. Right? If they're real skinny, you know they just really, they ain't gonna eat anyway. I mean, that's just the way. But we are so blessed in our society here. There was hand deep.
Yeah, that's why we have to always, no matter how old we are blessed to get, God wants for grace and mercy. Because if it wasn't for that, you know, we've been cut off a long time ago. And so many things that comes up that looks impossible, and He makes them possible, you know, it's through His grace and mercy.
Amen. And the strivings, what Rick said, was right on point, internal, with His own people. We've seen that. His own son rose up against Him. He's writing. But I wanted to really focus on, this is the picture of Messiah. This is prophetic of what the Messiah is going to do. Not just Israel, but all His Christian family, and all the nations will be brought in subjection to Him. Foreigners, everything. Revelations, I can teach it, I don't understand it all, but there's going to be a time Jesus sets up His reign, and He's going to rule with a rod of iron. He's going to have everything lined up, and then there's going to be a rebellion against Jesus. It's hard for me to understand, but there is. And then finally, after all that is done, we see the devil, demons will be locked up for an eternity. Hell and all these things are taking place. So amazing things, what we see here, all the nations, every knee is going to bow. Every tongue is going to confess. It's going to happen. From those who believe and those who don't believe, everyone is going to know that He's Lord. And this is what David is alluding to prophetically. He doesn't even know how the Holy Spirit is using him, but it just fits perfectly. Look at this next section. Did I get everybody's hand? 47 through 49. Someone read.
The Lord lives, blessed be my rock. Let God be exalted, the rock of my salvation. It is God who avenges me and subdues the people under me. He delivers me from my enemies. You also lift me up above those who rise against me. You have delivered me from the violent man.
See the difference in his songs? They're all God-focused. It's all about what God is doing, what God is introducing. That 48th verse, it is God who avenges me and subdues the people under me. God is in control. Then that final part, you have delivered me from who?
The violent man.
The violent men. You have everyone. David realized, he would say this so often, remember when he followed him through the wilderness, but Saul was after him. And God would put him in a place, he'd be in a cave using the bathroom. Saul would be there and David would just slip up, cut off pieces of his robe, and then David wouldn't kill him. I mean, Saul would be asleep in the middle of the field, surrounded by soldiers, and David would tiptoe in with his man, take his sword, and leave him. He understood this was nobody but God, Brother Rick.
I'm sure I'm not the only one in here, but in a way I am. When I had my heart transplant, I knew those doctors was very intelligent, those surgeons, and to do all of that. But I knew God was guiding their hand.
Yes.
And at a particular moment, I didn't have a heart in me. I was on a machine. And I knew that was all God. All I remember is I blinked my eyes and I woke up with a heart.
Wow.
And I knew that was all God. And so I didn't do nothing. I just laid there. I even got a heart sooner than I had ever expected. So it's nothing I did so great. I just knew it was all God's hand. And I can see that in David's song. That he understands that he had conquered nations and that he had fought, but it wasn't him. I mean, he gave all the credit to Christ. Just like I give all the credit to God, although the whole Baptist hospital seemed like was working on it.
Let's say,
Wow, I got so wrapped up in what he said, just woke up with a heart. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that as many opportunities that David had to kill Saul, I think he learned that mercy from how God showed him mercy. And he showed, in turn, he showed Saul mercy.
and I think it's a tough concept. How do we differentiate between mercy and spoiling someone? Right? How do you do that? Because if God constantly gives us mercy and grace, then we get used to that and we take it for granted. So as a good father, sometimes he has allowed things. Are you hearing what I'm saying with this whole process? And we do see the judgment. We see a lot of grace and mercy. Then he sends the prophet in. Okay, David, you've done wrong. You are the man. And so it's a balance that only God can give us because we do take his mercies for granted, right? And I just think if you never sick, you never had any sickness, any issues or whatever, I think after a point we would take that for granted. But when you get sick and you really hurt, at least for a couple of weeks, you're like, oh Lord, I just love you. When you get well, right? You're like, I just thank you for help. But then you kind of get used to help. And you kind of just move on. And so this whole process here, David was focused, but God's mercies are wonderful, but his judgments help us too. And that whole process, and we see David kind of vacillating, going back and forth.
Because I can't fathom how. You know, to me, Samuel, when he was telling him, or who was that, one of his, the apostles, I was reading him all the time, talking about, you see how you're acting and all that? You know, when he was doing
Joab.
everything. Who?
Joab.
Joab told him what he was doing wrong. All the time, Joab told him what he was doing wrong. And he explained to him, you know, this is what you got to do, and everything like that. But I think Joab had a hand in saving him for real. Because he knew if he wouldn't have gone there and went back to God and asked him for forgiveness, I think he would have been strung up somewhere.
Well, we're going to deal with Joab. He's going to come again. Brother Robert.
In fact, I'm just, my mind, something just baffled me. See, I look at God, man cannot be compared to God. Let me put it that way. Like we said right now, if a child is doing something and he takes the grace and mercy for granted, Pastor, you and I, sometimes we can allow our children to do things that we tell them, don't do it, and they keep doing it, and we're not actually giving them the correct, how do you call it, most probably spanking or whatever we have to do to make sure they do the right thing. But our God is very different. That's what I'm just looking at, what you just said, you know. So I just want to say that's why he's God. He's the love that he has. We don't have the love as human beings. We can't. And so we can measure up to God in any way. Because I get to a point, I'm flesh and blood. So I get angry. And I do things way beyond the way sometimes I even do before I realize that, oh, what I did, it looks like I went over the boundary. But But I've already done it because I'm flesh and blood.
Right.
But God, in His own omnipotent as He is, the love that He has is so much. And that is why His grace and mercy will just continually. But like we said, we shouldn't take that for granted.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen. Good. Dick Lynn.
Well, I think too, along with that, what makes David so strong too, not everything he acknowledged, but acknowledged his wrongdoing so many times. And even this one psalm says, wash me with hyssop that I may be cleansed. And I mean, when you admit that you did wrong, it makes you even strong. But when you go hard-headed on down the road and you think you're a perfect man or lady, and people just see you all outside of it, through your walks, it'll say more than what your mouth can ever say.
Amen. Amen. That example of living. Got all the hands. Look at this next section. 50 and 51. Someone read, please.
Therefore I'll give thanks to you, O Lord, among the nations, and sing praise to your name. He is the tower of salvation to his king, and shows mercy to his anointed, to David and his descendants forevermore.
I'm so glad he's learned how to read. After we teach our kids be at homeschool, when they can read, we like, well, we did all we needed to do. That's a little homeschool edition. You have to understand, all you got to understand if you don't homeschool your child. That 2 Samuel 22:51, he is the tower of salvation to his king. That's just a beautiful picture and shows, Robert brought this out, mercy to his anointed. That's not just King David. That was known as the anointed, but we're still looking to the Messiah in that line, and to David and his descendants forevermore. That's a messianic promise. That's what comes forth through Jesus Christ. Very important. Very significant as we go to our next section of what President Trump is doing now. He's over in Israel, 2-day stay. Talking to their president, went to the Western Wall. No sitting president has ever gone to the Western Wall. They all been too scared, which I understand. I mean, went to the Western Wall. This is serious with terrorists and all this other stuff. He went to that wall, which showed a lot of strength on his part to even go there. Stand 2 days visiting. He's going to visit some leaders there. An amazing time what's happening over there. And it's not President Trump, it's God is up to something. Anything surrounding Israel, any of the connections there, it is God. Because they would have been done wiped out Israel if they could. As small nation as they are, but God has still had his hand upon them. So this is a critical time. Keep your eyes open. There's a lot of stuff that is going down right now as President Trump is overseas and he's making these stops. Also, the first ever, he was able to fly from Saudi Arabia straight to Tel Aviv. Can't do it because they don't have any diplomatic ties. So somehow, God's grace worked out that Air Force One flew from Saudi Arabia directly over all those crazy territories, correctly into Tel Aviv, where he landed at. Never been done before. So God is up to something.
That's right.
A lot of firsts. Yes, sir.
You better believe he had enough F-16s and F-15s to fly around the bird. I'm telling you, they do that all the time. That's part of their job.
Amazing time. Yes,
Because
sir.
you have to have certain clearance to fly into Tel Aviv.
That's true.
You can't just, it's not like even commercial airliners, you go through so much to just fly in there because they have the most secure airport
It's a kid.
on this earth. On this earth. So God did that for a reason.
Amen. You're
His
right.
people,
Amen.
they've got the most secure airport.
In the world. So this whole prophetic, this whole picture, even from David's time, is being shown even where we are. Brother Robert.
The Wailing Wall, I've been there twice. That wall that he's been to, I went twice when I was in the military with the Ghana forces. I served as a UN personnel in Lebanon. I went there twice. I believe there is something that God wants to do in his life because he said something that actually said, for the father, he's able to visit that wall. his life will never be the same. And I'm just praying that whatever he said, he meant it. And God will be able to work on him. Because that wall, when you go there, Pastor, to be honest with you, when you stand before the wall and you slap whatever you written on paper in that wall,
That's right.
for a moment, something happens within the body. You feel something. Yeah. So I'm just praying that God should be able to touch his heart.
Amen.
So that whatever he said comes to life. Yeah.
Amen. Yes, Ms.
And
Akin.
I'm thinking about David here, how so many of his officials turned against him, and, you know, David just had a bunch of problems, you know, just people chasing him. Trump, none of the Israeli officials were there. None of them showed up. You know, they were not happy that he went to Saudi first.
Right,
They were really not happy about that. And they are not happy that he's not proclaiming them. That's their state. That belongs to Israel. And he won't say it out loud. He needs to go ahead and say it out loud, you know.
A lot of things are going on.
Yes, it is.
Look at this next section as we do a lot of comparisons. 965 BC, David's eulogy. 2 Samuel 23, 1 through 7. Now, when we think of eulogies, we think of someone's already dead. Okay, he's not dead. His death is going to come some while after this, but this is speaking of his life. These are some of his last words that we're going to be dealing with. The first 7 verses give the very beautiful last words of David. That is his last inspired utterance in song. He describes the ideal ruler, the Messiah, whose reign shall be a glorious dawn, a morning without clouds after a long stormy night. David realized that he did not fit the description, but he took comfort in the fact that God's covenant assured him that the Messiah would be descended from him. Verses 6 and 7 describe Christ's judgment on the sons of rebellion when he returns to set up his kingdom. So this whole process, as he's writing these Psalms, he's thinking about his situation, but the Holy Spirit is taking over too, and is taking it farther. It's making his experience larger than he could ever be. And so he understands this is bigger than me. I'm not worthy to write stuff like this. And he's just pointing, you know, thousands of years down the line to the Messiah to come. So let's just jump into these first 3 verses, 1 through 3. Someone read.
Now these are the last words of David. Thus says David, the son of Jesse. Thus says the man raised up on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel. The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me, and his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel said, the Rock of Israel spoke to me. He who rules over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God.
As we put these sections, I hope you can hear his heart. His
Yes.
heart comes out. It's all about God. It really is all about God. He identifies. This is Jesse's son.
Yes.
He never forgets where he came from. I'm Jesse, the son of Jesse. That's all I am. But God has done something. He's elevated me. And then he says, the anointed of the God of Jacob. I told you, and I've taught this, anytime you see Jacob, it's there for specific, because his other name is what? Israel. Israel means overcomer. Jacob means deceiver. So when you see Jacob within the scriptures, whoever's writing that is looking at the side of grace and mercy. The deceiver. Even though Jacob was a deceiver, God still elevated him to Israel. When you see Israel is looking on the powerful side. So Jacob, literally, the Israel could say now, we are Jacob. We're the nation of Jacob. All right, but that's not going to be, because that's saying they're deceivers. You know, they're small, so they choose Israel as the overcoming name, but it's the same name. So grace and mercy, he's looking to that, and he says, in the sweet psalms of Israel. He is sweet. I mean, think about the Psalms and all those that he wrote. He is the sweet psalms of Israel. The Lord did this. But I love this part. The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me. Never forget what God has done. That's what he's saying. And his word was on my tongue. So these are the last utterances of him, inspired in psalm, but very beautiful. Look at this next portion, 4 and 5, someone read.
And he shall be like the light of the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, like the tender grass springing out of the earth, by clear shining after rain. Although my house is not so with God, yet he has made with me an everlasting covenant, ordered in all things and secure. For this is all my salvation and all my desire. Will he not make it increase?
So we see kind of an understanding, I'm not worthy. And that 23 and 5, although my house is not so with God. Saying, okay, I look at my house, I messed up.
Yes.
I don't deserve these blessings. And, hopefully as Christians, you can look at that. We really don't deserve to be as blessed as we are. We really don't. It could be so much different. But then he pivots here because this is where the messianic part comes. Yet he has made with me an everlasting covenant. It's like, why? Why would he make an everlasting covenant with me? I'm the son of Jesse. I messed up so much. But it's about God's grace and mercy. And in essence, he's made an everlasting covenant with those who are saved. That's a good news for us. And then it says, ordered in all things and secure. This covenant is secure. This is God who's made the covenant. For this is all my salvation and all my desire. Will he not make it increase? He puts it all on God. I have to counsel a lot of people, a lot of married couples, and I always go back to the covenant. I say, you said I do. It all goes, nobody forced. I mean, there is not even a couple yet that's coming in my office with marriage counseling, and they said, you know what, I was forced into doing that. I mean, really, nobody. All of them willingly, for whatever reason. Now, some of them were forced because they had made all these arrangements and spent all this money. And they really knew God was telling them not to go there, but they was like, I don't spend too much money now. So they stand up there and they say, I do. But if you've been in my marriage ceremonies, I make sure you can hear them. Because some of them's like, I guess I need to make sure their fingers out in front of me too. So that they're crossing their fingers. Because it's really, all of them said I do. But guess what? When man makes a covenant, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But when God, and I say, okay, y'all made a covenant and y'all want to break it off, but didn't you make it before God? So you got an issue. You just don't have man to woman, but you got God to man to woman. And he watches over that. So I was like, you got a bigger issue than me right there. I said, what you should have did, you should have just kind of circumvented and went to the justice of the peace and said, can you leave God out of it? And just kind of let us sign the paper. That's what you should have done. But now God is involved. And so now God needs to deal with this. Look at this whole process. God makes a covenant that's everlasting. He says God is going to keep it. Look at this next section, 6 and 7. Someone read, please.
But the sons of rebellion shall all be as thorns, thrust away, because they cannot be taken with hand. But the man who touches them must be armed with an iron and the shaft of a spear, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place. He's a warrior. We see symbols, but this is bigger than him. This is the Messiah. He rules with iron. I already told you in Revelation, he's very clear with that. And then it comes to this, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place. Hell is made for the people that should be there. It's a real place for real people that will die forever. Sad, and it's hot, and it's sulfur, and it's brimstone. Is a place that you want to. I'm in church sometimes it gets a little hot, and people just fan it. I said, they better get right with the Lord, because they better be right with God, because they can't stand this little heat. They definitely don't want to go to hell. And so this whole process, that's a real place, and he literally looks to the messianic power and time of hell that'll be tied up for all those sons of rebellion. I like that, sons of rebellion. Yes, sir. I would like if you say that hot music, because every time, sometime in the church, old folks when it's a little cool in there, turn on the heat. And we gotta sit there, us youngins, we gotta sit there and sweat. Hey, I was young once.
Now look at this process here. we've got those last inspired words, but that doesn't mean David's life is over. That's his last inspired utterances. But let's see what God has put to circumvent or to go around David. We're going to deal with David's mighty men because his mighty men are a big part of his life, okay? And God puts this here. Now, there's going to be some portions that we got to read and go through some names, but they're still very important. 2 Samuel 13:8, someone read.
These are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb-Bathsheba the Tachmonite, chief among the captains, who was called Abinadab the Israelite, because he had killed 800 men at one time.
That's a bad name. I tell you, that's a bad man. I mean, he's better than Rambo. Rambo ain't never killed 800 men at one time. He's better than, well, actually Samson did. Samson killed 1,000 with a jawbone. Bad man, bad man. He pushed down the Coliseum 3,000. These are the men that he had surrounded. And I'm excited about what God's doing in Ebenezer. You should be excited too. Ladies should be excited that we have men that are loving the Lord, following in love with God, want to lead, want to be better men. I tell you, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is the way God has done for us. And so this whole process, as we're dealing with things, please note, these mighty men surrounding David are really God's grace. Putting people to connect and protect and assist. Look at this next section, 9 and 10. Someone read, please.
And after him, Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the Ahohite, one of the three mighty men with David, when they defied the Philistines, who were gathered there for battle, and the men of Israel had retreated. He arose and attacked the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand stuck to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the people returned after him only to plunder.
This is beautiful. We still see God permeating, and one of these mighty men just want to focus out. He was fighting so much, he arose and attacked the Philistines. Always been the arch enemy. Until his hand was what?
Weary.
It got weary. All right, I've not been here. I've been, doing something in the yard or whatever, on a job, and my hand literally just got tired. And so when it gets tired, a lot of us, we just kind of, I can't go no more. Well, he held on to that thing so much that at that point we see that it stuck to the sword. It stuck. His hand stuck to the sword so he could finish. And it says the Lord brought about a great victory. Philip told a story yesterday. I think it was Philip, one of my kids. It was who? Benjamin. Sorry about that, Benjamin. About a soldier that was in an attack or whatever, and while he was, he got blown up, his hand, he had clenched something. And so his hand was cut off, was blown off and everything. And so his hand is gone, but he's having excruciating pain. And he said all he can feel is his hand clench, and it felt like it kept digging in to his skin, just excruciating pain. And he has no hand, literally, but when it was blown off, it was in that position. So he goes to the physicians, they try to fix it, still pain, because it's not a physical pain, it's a mental pain. All right, and the same thing, his hand broke, and the only way they could fix it, they had to put a mirror of his other hand, and he had to release his hand, and his mind saw and thought it was his real hand opening up, and immediately the pain goes away. And so the same process here, this guy fights so much, his hand literally just collapses, freezes on that sword so that he can finish the battle. God is amazing in this. He's amazing what he can do. Look at this next section, 11 and 12. Did I get all hands? Someone?
Phantom pain.
Phantom pain. That was a big fan of pain. 11 and 12. Someone read, please.
And after him was Shammah, the sons of Adi, the Hararite. The Philistines had gathered together into a troop where there was a piece of ground full of lentils. So the people fled from the Philistines. But he stationed himself in the middle of the field, defended it, and killed the Philistines. So the Lord brought about a great victory.
See, mighty men, willing to stand, and God uses them. That's the picture. I love this part. Mighty man, willing to stand, God gives a victory. I love that whole picture, a piece of ground full of lentils. Why do we have to know those details? But full of lentils, it gives us a nice picture of that. So the people, they fled from the Philistines. They were gone, but he stationed himself in the middle of the field. Man, these are movies that we need to make. What a man, what a man, what a man. That's all we keep saying. What a man, what a man, what a man. And then God, we say it's all about God. Because he's the one who gives the victory. Look at this next one, 13 and 14. Someone read, please.
Then 3 of the 30 chiefs went down at harvest time and came to David at the cave of Adullam. And the 2 Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was there in Bethlehem.
All right, so this is an introduction to his other. This is a very important part. He's at Bethlehem. What does Bethlehem mean? House of bread. Don't forget that. Very important. So it's leading us into the picture. Go ahead and read 15 and 17, please. Through 17. Mom, go ahead.
And David said with longing, oh, that someone would give me a drink of the water from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate. So the 3 mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he would not drink it, but poured it out to the dead. And he said, for be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is this not the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives? Therefore he would not drink it. These things are done by the 3 mighty men.
What a man, what a man.
What a man.
It's all about God. He has an astute awareness of what's going on. We see these mighty men here. How many were?
3.
Remember, I told you, don't forget your numbers, your 7s, your 3s, your 12s. They usually stand for something. These 3 men, they hear that he just wanted a drink. David, and this is where we go back to the other words, David's like, I am a king, I am the anointed, but I'm still just a guy. Yes. But now these armor bearers like, man, our king wants a drink of water. So they go through and they fight through the lines. You know, they're just battling through. This is the secret troops going in. They get a water, and they didn't have a Stanley cup like me. I mean, they had a flask that they would screw on or whatever. And so they get the water, they fight back through, and they get to David, and then they give him the water. And what does he do? Now, I'll be honest, if I was there, I would have been, I can't use the word that I want to use, but I would have had issues with this, all right? I would have had a lot of issues with this. Because, you done fought through, you brought back this water from the well, and then the king just goes, you're like, for real, dog. I can't believe you just did that. Man, I was giving a lot. But he makes a statement, far be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is this not the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives? Therefore, he would not drink it. So he's like, these are mighty men. They were risking their lives for me. God, you deserve this water. And he still didn't get the drink. What a God-conscious man. And I think there's got to be those times in our lives that we could take that drink, but we go, nah, this is for the Lord. Whatever it may be, just when you could take that praise and you just bow out. You do things that circumvent. You know that praise will come if you do this, but you go, God, it's all about you. And all of us have those choices in our lives where God is exalted and we humble ourselves. Very key.
I think it's just interesting that all of these men basically he met while running from Saul. Yes. And so often we think of things we talked about in the meantime on yesterday. So often we think of those times when we're running, when we're not at our best, when we're not in our kingship as the worst times. But those are when he built these relationships so that they loved him so much that they were willing to go get a drink of water because they knew him to be a leader in good times and in bad.
A wonderful picture. And ladies, don't get upset. We don't have the mighty women. But they were married to Mighty men. I mean, so they were great also. So don't get upset. We're just kind of feeling this time. It's all right. To have mighty men is a good thing, right? Mighty men is a good thing.
And who have these men?
Let's move on to our next section here. So we'll read 18 and 19, please.
Now Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was chief of another three. He lifted his spear against 300 men, killed them, and won a name among these three. Was he not the most honored of three? Therefore he became their captain. However, he did not attain to the first three.
So we see all of these elevations. We see that they had to earn something. And this is, I'll be honest, this is one of our biggest issues within America now. We used to have leaders that had to earn their leadership. Especially presidents or whatever, they had to go through war. You know, they had to go through something and they would be tried and honored. We've got a system, and it's our fault. We've set it up that we say if you get education, that you can circumvent the time of actually working. And I think that's really been bad for us. Because leadership, I believe, has been proven over time. We've got a lot of people, you know, even theologians going to theology school, that come out with degrees and stuff, they're thrown in churches, and they haven't proven their leadership. And it's a disaster. And even in politics, we've got people that haven't been there, and they just kind of circumvented it. And now they're in places that they're not even proven in their leadership point.
Money to pay their way into.
Correct. They bought leadership. But notice these men had to go through something to get into that, to get into archives here in the scriptures. Look at this next part, 20 through 23. I think that's where we're at.
Benaiah was the son of Joiada, the son of a violent man from Tabzeel, who had done many deeds. He had killed 2 lion-like heroes of Moab. He also had gone down and killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day.
Go ahead to 23.
And he killed an Egyptian, a spectacular man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, so he went down to him with the staff, wrested the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. These things Benaiah the son did, and won a name among 3 mighty men. He was more honored than the 30, but he did not attain to the first 3, and David appointed him over his guard.
Man, this blessing, we know it's God. And all that, I just underlined that one. He also had gone down and killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day. What a man. I just like, we gotta do better, man. I'm saying, I'm running from ants and insects and stuff. I am not all that God wants me to be. I'm like, I shouldn't even worry about dogs anymore. I'm like, come on, what a man. They're like, come my way. This guy wrestled a lion. He killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. What a man. With no gloves. I mean, this is a guy. God's grace.
God's protection too. Because, I mean, a snowy day was cold. His hands could have been frozen. He could have slipped on the snow, fell down, the lion could have jumped on him. I mean, it was God's protection.
Amen.
What region was that bad to snow like that?
What'd you say?
A lion is normally in places like where it's hot. What they doing all the way up there?
I was a snow leopard. I get off All right, let's go to this next section. These are all the men, and I thought about it, I was like, I could just cut it off, but this is kind of the section, you know when you have a eulogy, you have the program, and you have that little thing in the side, and it says the cousin and grandma and all of them. And I found out if you leave somebody off, they gonna get upset, they gonna be proud. So you try to figure out who to put in. You either take everybody out or you put everybody in. So this is the section, this is the program section that we gotta get all the names who are very important, all right? So someone, I'm not gonna call you out, just kind of flow through it real quick. Let's go 24 through 39. Go, Sarah.
Asahel, the brother of Joab, was one of the 30. Elhanan, the son of Dodo of Bethlehem. Shammah the Haradite, Elika the Haradite, Pelez the Paltite, Ira the son of Ikech, the Tekoite, Abiezr the Anathotite,
Rabbani the Hashkathite, Zalman the Ahite, Mahari the Netophathite, Caleb the son of Baana the Netophathite, Ittai the son of Ribai from Gibeah of the children of Benjamin, Benai a Parathonite, Kedai from the brooks of Gaash, Adi Alban the Arpathite, Azmaveth the Dorharmite, Ahiaba the Shawabamite, sons of Jashin, Jonathan Shammah the Hararite, Ahiam the son of Sharar the Hararite, Eliphalet the son of Ahashbai the son of the Maacathite, Eliam the son of Ahithophel the Gilonite, Hizrai the Carmelite, Kairai the Arbite, Egal the son of Nathan of Zobai, Bani the Gadite, Zilek the Ammonite, Zaharai the Beerothite, armbearer of Joab the son of Zariah, Ira the Ithrite, the heir of the Ithrite, and Uriah the Hittite, 37 and all.
We really work hard at teaching our kids to read. That's awesome. This whole process here, reading those, I encourage you at home with your family devotion, read aloud. A lot of times we do a lot of reading mentally, which is great, but to read aloud, it just does something. To hear those names, it just compacts. Faith comes by hearing, hearing by the words of God. I truly believe. I do a lot of mental reading, but when I can hear it, and I've witnessed it here at Ebenezer, when it's read aloud, when I go line upon line, faith comes by hearing. Hearing about it, and you're going, wow. And you're like, I read that, why doesn't it seem different? Because you're hearing it. It's a double edge. You read it mentally, but to hear it, it connects, and God just adds His anointing. Same respect here, we see these mighty men, and it says 37 in all. 3, and we've got that 7. A total completion. God is at work. Want you to study ahead next time. A bad time in David's life. This is a bad book. I believe this is where we're going to learn a lot about David. 2 Samuel 24:1. I want you to really be studying as we go into David's census of Israel and Judah. Come to your feet. Let's close out. Senator, thank you for looking at the time. You're like, is that time already?
You went so fast, it was
Thank you all for coming tonight, and it's all because of God and bless us to be able to come out.